Good afternoon. Welcome to the second week of PQP Part 1 with Lakehead University. We'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are in the traditional territory of the Fort William First Nation, and we are currently at Hillcrest Park. So for those of you who have been to Thunder Bay, that's our location this evening. We'd like to welcome everyone who's so far registered in the course. We have a number of students who come from all over the place, Southern Ontario, Northern Ontario, other parts of the world. We have elementary, secondary, we have chairs, we have some practicing principals already, vice principals, special education specialists, people that are working in section schools, private schools, Catholic schools, and public schools. And we really would like to just welcome you all to the class. It's a little windy today.
It is windy, but it's beautiful. And we chose this outdoor scenery this afternoon so we can talk a little bit about changing climates and changing within our schools. And one of these is, we'd like to point out, we noticed that in several of the posts there's been a lot of talk about the need to create a climate of trust to create safety and inclusive environments for our staff so they feel that they can take risk and generate autonomy. But what we really want, we'd like to kind of refocus that discussion and think about, and what does that mean? What does that actually look like on the ground? So if I say I'm working to create a climate of trust in my school, what kinds of things are you as a leader doing? What actions might you be taking? And to relate some of those to some of your posts. So go back to some of those real examples and reflect on what your moves were to generate that climate, to build those relationships, to create inclusivity, to allow staff members to take risk. And how do you demonstrate that in your actions, and how does it look in your school when it plays out? Because that's really what the next steps are. As you learn about the theory that we're working through in this class, in this course, and you learn about the personal resources you bring to it, the next pieces are how do we operationalize that? So what does it look like in the implementation stages?
And I guess one of the things that, just on a practical note to be thinking about, is when you actually get that opportunity to lead a team, whether it's leading as a co-teacher or leading as a coach, or whether you're leading as a department head or a vice principal or principal, you get to that moment, and then I get this thought that goes through my head that says, okay, I know what I believe in, I know where I want to go, but what is the best route to get there? And there are many ways to get there. On a very other note is when you go for a job interview, these are the types of questions that you need to be able to talk explicitly about. When you tell a story of a time when you achieved something with a group of people, or maybe you didn't achieve what you attempted to and what you learned from that. So we would also encourage you to journal somehow, whether you're doing video journal or whether you have a journal that you like to take notes in or on your computer. But really, as you're working through things in your job this year, think about those moments and then really try and identify clearly what action did you take and what was the outcome. Was it what you intended or was it not what you intended? And that gets back to that data gathering piece.
There was some great opportunities. Simon Sinek really challenged us to look at leaders from different perspectives, and that a leader wasn't necessarily the person appointed or given the rank, that it was actually a choice. And that's an opportunity for you. Many of you are not in a formal leadership role. Some of you are. However, you were likely raised to that point of formal leadership because someone recognized within you the informal leadership qualities you were displaying. And so we want you to think about how you recognize those informal leaders and how you help use them to help drive collaboration within your school, because those informal leaders have skills and skill sets and strengths that you can be looking for as a leader overall, and using those skills and skill sets to drive the bigger picture. So it's really important that you learn how to recognize those informal leaders, and then how to help them elevate your thinking within your collaboration in your school to move everybody in the same direction.
And one of the things, I guess, just to piggyback on that a little bit, is as the school leader, even the formal school leader, you really don't want to be the first one to take the step all the time, if ever. One of the things that I really look for personally is who can I support and who can I take that first step with, because sometimes it is teachers taking it, a group of them, and you might be creating those conditions so that they have that confidence and support and trust that they can take that first step. And even if it's a complete flop, that's okay. In that video, one of the videos we talked about was how many times you have to fail before you achieve success. And I know there's a great Michael Jordan quote out there. There's a lot of them, but all the greats, people that have really achieved great things, I don't know anyone that did it on the first try.
No.
So
and further to that, when you're ready to make when you move into a new school, I've moved into a new school, and so when you move into a new space or a new school as a new leader, you really need that opportunity to look at where people want to go and what their next steps are and what their strengths are, because that's where you're going to sort of do the push piece from. You're going to push from there and pull others along through that. And I like to talk about it as that there's a nice balance as a leader, particularly if you're needing to lead change, between pushing and pulling people. The push is the need to get moving, the accountability piece, but the pull is that draw, the why you're there, that's the motivational piece, that's the relationship and the trust piece. But you've got to have a balance of both. And knowing who those informal leaders are and then where they're wanting to move to next, so that you can drive that change in the right direction, and then really harnessing it, because you can't be the top-down driver. And you know, I think Simon Sinek really explained that quite well, and many of your discussion posts really reflected on that we know instinctively that top-down driving only works partially, doesn't work all the way. So you've really got to think about how you take what's in existence and then move it forward together.
And one of the things around collaboration that we talked about, and what I read, actually, I think we both read this, as a lot of you highlighted, when you were collaborating about something that was important to you and your students, it works so much better for you as a teacher than if it was the school leader who said, okay, everyone, this is what you have to do because I've decided this is what you have to do. So the question becomes, as a school leader, how do you facilitate your teachers to come to a place where they are feeling and actually focusing through their collaboration and their inquiry about what is important to their students and how to move their students, without just simply leaving it to your staff to say, okay, everyone, figure it out, I trust you. Because then where does that position you as the school leader? Because you do see the big picture as a school leader. You do collaborate with outside agencies, other school leaders, your superintendents, other boards. You will have lots of, yes, the ministry, you have lots of places where you see the larger scope of things that the classroom teacher may not ever see. So think about, as a principal, how do you foster that and maintain that, encourage that and support that, and what are those conditions that you're helping to create so that that true collaboration and that inquiry through learning can exist?
That's going to bring you to really the next steps when we start looking at Module 2, because the Ontario Leadership Framework really nicely lays out what sort of the structure of leadership, good leadership, looks like, not just in Ontario, I think, but it's a good model for leadership kind of everywhere. And what's really key to that is that, yes, building relationships is a critical and important component, and lots of you are going to have an opportunity to talk about that and look at that domain, the activities within it. But there's also the domain of securing accountability, and there's also the domain of developing school direction, and setting directions within schools, and that leads into setting directions with boards, and those all have to work together. So when you're considering where teachers want to move and what they want to do, you're the person who brings it back to, and what if the what and how is what we're doing, how do we know it's working? So we go back and we're looking at that data, and we're pulling ourselves through that reflective cycle again, and that way we build in not just the safe and inclusive space and the climate of collaboration, but we actually have the pieces of data, we actually have the accountability piece to sort of secure where we're going and know that we're doing the right things. Because there's a lot of different ways to get at a problem or an issue, or to move children or change within school, but which one is going to work is going to depend on how closely you monitor your data and how much you pay attention to what is working and when it's working for children.
So as we move into Module 2, we'll be looking at the role of the principal through education leadership, and some of the things that you talked about in practice and an idea and the why. We're going to be looking at the how and the what now as well. So we want you to think about current leadership theories. We'll have a chance to read those. I noticed in one of the sections that someone posted 8 leadership theories in 5 minutes, which I thought was kind of a cool little video clip. Because recognizing that in different situations, different educational leadership theory comes into action. You wouldn't use the same exact stance in every single situation. Similarly to having a classroom, your entire class doesn't learn how to read in the exact same way. So you have to know when to use those and which ones will work in the situation you're in. Just on a personal note, as you'll be working with your EQI, Colleen is working very quickly as she can, because it is a long process to get your EQI when she receives notice that it's been submitted to her. So please be patient. She is working on that. And so you should have those in the next couple days if you have completed them already.
This in the upcoming Module 2 will give you an opportunity to look at your EQI, which is going to show you those personal resources, those personal strengths as they relate to leadership qualities. And then you can take a look at those, and we're asking you to really think about where you find your strengths in the Ontario Leadership Framework, and where your EQI domains align with Presskill and Brookfield's leadership theory. So you get a chance to really look deeply at what drives your style of leadership, where your strengths are, and where are the places you want to grow. Because one of the great things as you delve into the book, The EQ Edge, you're going to discover that your EQI, your emotional quotient intelligence, is not a fixed item. It can grow and change, and there are great ways to do that. And so those will be the things when you start developing for, often when you go into an interview situation, they'll ask you about either an annual learning plan or a growth plan as a principal or leader, and those are the kinds of things they'll be looking for, is people who have reflected on where their strengths are, and know their areas for growth, and have reflected on what actions they're going to take in the upcoming years to move forward in those areas of growth.
So that wraps up the first week of PQP1. We will be checking in every week like this by video. I know we're going to be falling in between modules, or at the end of one, beginning of another, but that's okay. We just want to really highlight the work that you've done, which has been really great, and the conversations that you've been having with each other I found to be quite at a deep level. And so we look forward to reading this week, and we wish you a great week.
Yes, and we hope you had a happy Thanksgiving with your family and friends. Thank you.